another episode of Parallel Barking. I am Ariana, your barker number one. Well, actually, I'm not going to give us values here.
You can be number one. I'll be number 0.
Okay. Barker Omega over there.
Omicron.
Omicron.
You can be Delta. I'll be Omicron.
All right. And then the squeaker in the back is actually an actual doggy dog. Dad, you want to introduce?
Canine family. Yes. Apollo.
Yeah.
Our American bulldog.
Yeah.
He's still a puppy, even though he's 110 pounds.
He is ginormous and a big dope.
He is.
Yes, but he will be contributing the musical background noise today.
And I think that's appropriate given the subject that you have chosen.
Yes, the subject that I have chosen today, and I am sorry if those of you who are listening do not like it, not sorry, is law school, going to law school, and what's up with that? And what should I go to law school? Should you go to law school? What happens after law school? So that's what it's basically going to be about. So I'm just going to throw all these questions to an expert, the law professor extraordinaire who's been in the industry for, I don't know, since the dinosaurs came around.
Before the dinosaurs.
Yeah, if you could see his hair, you would realize that it's translucent past the color of light. It's just so, yeah, he's just old. All right, y'all. He knows his business.
Tell you, I walked Jerusalem with the holy people back before the Romans burned it down.
So you know that he is a credible source for this kind of information.
Well, an ancient source.
Right. Anyway, yeah. At least something. So I guess my first question is, for you, how did you know that you wanted to go to law school?
How did I know?
Yeah.
1,000 years ago?
1,000 years ago, if you can remember.
It was a process of elimination. I didn't want to do anything else. And that seemed to be an interesting place to give a shot to. I just finished up a master's program in public policy, and I thought that from my perspective, that would, it'd be interesting. It's certainly more interesting than anything else. I wasn't really particularly enthusiastic about getting a doctorate in the social sciences. I wasn't interested in medical school, and I had no talent for real work, for the trades and the like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, and frankly, sometimes I wonder whether, and I don't wonder. I know that they are certainly of equal worth, and sometimes I think of more worth than where we tend to shunt our progeny, if only because we've constructed this kind of it's the bourgeois aristocratic society. In the old days, everyone wanted to be a noble, or in Japan, everyone wanted to be samurai. In bourgeois societies, including Marxist-Leninist bourgeois societies, no one wants to work with their hands. That's the meaning. And so we've set up these meaning tropes where the executive has a higher rank than the plumber, the lawyer and the doctor have a higher rank than the electrician. And we've ordered our economic and social spheres along those lines, except plumbers are laughing all the way to the bank and to their beach houses and their European vacations, because everyone is so busy being an executive now, earning $13 an hour, that there's plenty of room for plumbers to charge what the market will bear. But that's a different story. So why did I go to law school? Process of elimination. I didn't have talent to do very much of anything else. I was curious, and I had taken a couple of law courses undergraduate, and I found them kind of fun. So
So for those of us who don't really have quite a sense of direction yet, maybe if we're feeling that pull, it could be the way to go.
Well, but it was 1,000 years ago, back before you had to mortgage your grandchildren's lives in order to go to graduate school.
Okay,
so
that's a good point.
The economics of the nature of my risk taking, as clueless as I was back then, would be substantially different than it is today, where pricing for graduate school, not just law school, but for most schools, pricing is just now so different that the nature of the risk versus rewards, if you're exploring, is very different. So you have to make a different calculus than I did 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, that was actually my next question is, are you, or, am I, whoever wants to go to law school, are we financially prepared to go to law school? Because, student debt is a huge problem, at least right now. We know it is for the millennial population in general, but for law students, they're among the most affected because it is exuberantly expensive. It's not cheap. And even public law schools cost, 25 grand a year.
So, wow. Yeah, like, no, I don't keep up, other than I know that that at least from the perspective of the period before Noah and the flood, when I was pricing law schools,
right.
The price is now just very high, and well, like I said, the risk factors are different, and you've got to also, something else is different. And I think this has to be put into the calculus as well. And I've mentioned this in some of my writings elsewhere, but we're now a society that measures everything. And we create expectations, not just of rewards, but of where you're going to project yourself into the labor markets, and therefore what you can expect to be the present value of your lifetime earnings based on these quantifications. And in the context of law school, like business schools, like most other universities, where the law school sits within a ranking system as a function of the cost of that education, would have to be factored in to figure out what the likely present value of the lifetime earnings for choosing that place given its cost will be. You can almost run, it's simple analytics in a sense that will give you a ballpark of where that fits. But in a sense, what that means, and given and again, let me stop for a second and say I am both a friend and not a friend of rankings. Rankings are the way in which we impose rational sorting on things, whether they actually represent some kind of absolute notion of quality or not, will be debated long after we're dead.
Right.
But it exists, and it has significant repercussions for markets. So here's the calculus. If it's going to cost you $100,000 to go to a law school, the rank of which will make it likely that you're going to be projected into the law labor market at its bottom end, and let's say earn less than $50,000 a year for a long time, the present value of your lifetime earnings at that point, given the cost of the tuition, which is $100,000, plus the interest over time, plus the support and everything, versus the amount of your likely income,
yeah,
and the income foregone by other choices, would be one way of looking at whether or not it makes sense. If again, if you are indifferent between a legal education and, let's say, business school or plumbers, those are choices that you can make. If you are passionate about the law, this is what you want to do, and you don't care, and you've got a game plan, and you're not really interested in the projections in a particular place because you view this as something that is, central to your being and the like. Well, the calculus will be very different as well. If you're looking at it strictly from the perspective of economics, I like A, B, and C. Which one will produce the greatest benefit for me, including personal benefit, because you're going to have to factor that in. I can make a whole lot more money as a lawyer, but if I hate the profession, but I'm only in it because I've got a talent for it, but I hate it, you're going to be very unhappy. And I can tell you that I have, over the course of my life, have met many business people, lawyers, doctors, accountants, who went into that profession because they made the calculation without calculating their joy in that profession. And there is nothing worse than a very unhappy person who is now trapped by their own calculus and can't get out. And and that leads to tragedy sometimes. So
yeah, I mean, that's
keep that in mind.
That's really important. I mean, because considering about why you are going to law school. And I've been trying to think about that myself. Like, why would I want to go to law school? And I think you brought up some really good points, because I was thinking about this the other day about, the choices in my most ideal world. If I could get accepted to any law school for free, if they gave me a free ride, that would be amazing. I could go to Harvard or Columbia or Stanford, all these Ivy League big names.
Or humble you.
Yes, or humble you. Right.
And recall that we're talking ratings. We're not talking quality of education.
Listen. But it would be much more beneficial to me to go to one of those big name schools if I was interested in, for instance, going into politics or going into a career trajectory that I am not interested in right now.
But there's more than that. It's not just that. The school that you choose will also determine your social networks, and therefore, again, the way in which you project yourself into the labor markets.
Absolutely.
What you buy with a school is not just the education, but you buy the social networks, both longitudinally, that is the alumni networks, and latitudinally, that is among your peer group.
That's
and
such a
where
great
they're
point.
drawn from. So when you're looking at this, you're looking at a larger number of factors than merely one, do I like law and do I want a law practice? How committed am I? You're also looking at this strategically in terms of what my choice are and how much that choice is going to cost me. And am I compatible with that choice in terms of its strategic values in my placement within social hierarchies, economic hierarchies, power hierarchies, and not just politics. We're talking about access to clients, the level at which you will not, the level of sophistication of the work, but the level of the kind of work that you're going to be doing, the size of the client and their influence, and your access to that kind of work. And that applies not just to whether you're going to be working for a top 50 company, your clients will include top 50 companies, or whether it's just mom and pops. But even if you are going into the nonprofit sector, the political sector, it will probably have an even greater bearing on whether or the kind of access you will have to the even more socially autonomous, I'm using my words carefully here, socially autonomous,
It's access.
non-governmental,
You're absolutely right.
groups.
It's all about access. But if all you want, if all you're looking for is that knowledge, which I think is what I'm looking for, it might not be what our listeners are looking for. It might not be, then I don't think the name is important. I think accreditation absolutely is important. I don't think the name is as important. Because I can tell
you're going to go to the baseline.
The tech world does not give two issues about where you went or even if you went.
Well, except I would there. I'm not sure that I would agree. That would certainly be true with tech once you get in, but with respect to if you're going in as tech, I think you're absolutely right mostly. But if you're going into tech as a lawyer, you're going to bring in all the baggage, the aristocratic and sorting baggage of the law school world. If instead you're going into tech as tech, but you're also informing your tech with other knowledge that is, then you're absolutely right.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
but if again, you know, be careful how it is that you're going in the same.
You're absolutely right. Yes,
in business, or if you use the degree because you're an entrepreneur and you think it will help you in starting, managing, and guiding your business to wherever it is you want to take it, either a for-profit business or a non-profit business or organization. So it really does depend.
Did you ever look at the places that you might want to work at after you graduated law school and look at the people's credentials to see where they went before you even went to law school? Or
no, I had no idea. But I was kind of feral. There are a lot of people, and again, remember, this was 1,000 years ago. An immigrant.
Oh yeah, there were no internets.
Yeah, no, look, and plus, I did not grow up in a family where you had a lot of intergenerational knowledge that you can pass through about how it is that you do this. Yeah, we had no idea about any of this stuff. I picked this up on the fly as I was going through, which also meant that I would make mistakes. And again, this goes to a different conversation about why it is that, and this involves both issues of marginalization on the basis of immigrant status or race or whatever, but because it is not talent, but the accumulation of social knowledge that you need in order to understand, oh, wow, is this something I need to take into account because that's the way social structures are created? I had no clue. I learned, and you learn quickly, and mercifully, that wasn't particularly hard to learn by the time you got to graduate school. But I had to pick this stuff up at the undergraduate level as well. And then you start learning about how this works. And then, of course, if you're in a ratings-based environment, you're in a ratings-based environment. Even if you fight against a ratings-based environment, you're in the ratings-based environment. You're either in it because you want to exploit it, because you want to embed yourself in it, or you're in it because you want to exploit it by appearing to fight against it. But there it is.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question from an insider's point of view.
I don't know how
I don't know if you'll be able to help at all. But how likely do you think it is compared to, well, I'm not going to say compared to your day because it's totally different, but how likely do you think it is now that somebody with outstanding credentials will get a scholarship to law school?
Oh, it depends. Every school now, although look, schools all talk to each other. We now have the kind of stratification and social subgroups that make up a law school has changed dramatically, even in my time as within the faculty. Law schools pride themselves on differentiating their product, but at the same time, they also know that that the subgroups in their organizations all have to be talking to each other, and there's a bit of a herd instinct because you don't want to be everyone wants to be a right side outlier, but no one wants to be on the wrong side of outlying, and being, at the top of the herd curve is always safe. So the answer is, for most schools, within a broad range of variation, there are formulas, approaches, systems, analytical tools that they use, sometimes with greater and sometimes with less discretionary spaces. So there's absolutely no way on earth I can answer your question because it will depend on the way in which an individual school, given the cohort that is applying it in a particular time, will crunch through the system they set up, and then subject to the exigencies and serendipities of whatever space there is for an individual to exercise discretion. Right.
So subject to their whims.
Well, it's not whims, it's subject to it. We live in a culture now where, and you I'm sure you see this in the business world as well. We live in a culture that is just now worships the notion of creating objectives or rules or systems, and then vesting individuals with either a small or a large amount of discretion to make choices grounded in these rules or systems or the like. It's just the way society operates, and it is little different in Beijing, Berlin, or Boston.
Yeah. I mean,
so that's a long way of saying I really can't answer your question, but I can explain why I can't answer your question.
Well, it's okay. I think I got something a little more interesting out of it. The fact that you all share information amongst yourselves.
Well, not individual information.
Right.
They share systems information.
Systems.
Right. So people will talk, how best to run an office, what kind of factors used. Everyone will keep some of their stuff sort of proprietary, but they'll talk systems, and no one is going to want to have a particularly bizarre system. So you're not going to have a group of admissions officials sitting around a meeting and having someone say, oh yeah, we use tarot cards. And when an applicant comes in, we'll just cast a tarot card and then decide whether they're going to get a scholarship or admit it.
That's
right.
Good.
Right. So you're not going to get that kind of
Standard.
Weird outlier. And in part, you're not going to get that weird outlier because there's a lot of affinity within these groups. The admissions professionals in law schools will talk to each other. They'll have meetings, they'll have organizations. University presidents do the same thing. University provosts, law school deans, everyone gets together, you talk, you compare notes. There are some things that are especially you, and you're probably not going to talk about that in granular detail. But with respect to the large systems, the macro systems, people tend to like to keep an eye on what everyone is doing, and everyone likes their own little variation, but no one is going to stray very far unless they think somehow that they will be the ones who will be able to create a new path.
They will innovate. They will be the pioneers.
Right. So, and I'll give you an example of that innovation in the face of crisis. So you've got crisis, COVID, The big innovation is, are we moving away from LSATs?
Ooh.
And right, but that is what passes for big innovation. Are we going to use the LSAT? Well, if we don't use the LSAT, are we going to use no exam, or are we going to have a big tent and you can use the GREs or the or some other
what's the
graduate level
alternative?
exams? And then if you do that, everyone has to talk, because then you have to figure out a way of embedding it into your decision system so that your system is consistent. The problem with discretion is you need to create boundaries for your discretionary decision making so that there's at least a level of predictability and accountability. Otherwise, people will just go off.
Oh, this is fun.
But this is standard administrative practice for everything. It's just going to show in the law school context a little different than it does, for example, in the Department of Commerce.
Are they?
This is now we're far afield from.
I know what we started at. Did we talk? I mean, are they talking about the same thing with SATs?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I'm sure they are. Everyone's talking about this. What kind of, and this is the larger conversation, which is what measurable and qualitative factors ought to be gathered together, and how are they to be rationalized so that one can apply them in a similar way across a population of applicants, in order for the system to be fair, consistent, predictable, and to meet the objectives of getting, quote unquote, the best class possible, whatever best means.
Yeah, whatever
and
that means.
That's also a moving target.
Yeah, that's going to change.
Right. But so there's both certainty, predictability, but also every school will be different, and all of it will be a function of the applying cohort, and that changes from year to year, at least at the margins.
Okay, so my summary of deciding whether or not to go to law school is pretty much about what you want to do after law school and the money.
Yeah, but again, I keep cautioning, unless if you base it solely on money, unless money is the thing that makes you happy, that is just,
it's not something that you should really base your decision on.
Well, unless you really like money, and it gives you pleasure, and the money and or the power is the thing that drives you.
I mean,
in the absence of that, you really ought to identify first the thing that makes you happiest, or your goal, the thing that defines you, and then work from there.
Okay.
And it may be money, it may be power, it may be being invited to tea with the queen. Everyone is different, but you got to know yourself and your circumstances. It may be that you need to sacrifice some element of your happiness because there are other things that are important given your own specific life circumstances, right? And there's a million variations of that. But again, that's a conversation you have to have with yourself.
All right, I'm satisfied. Hopefully the listeners are semi-satisfied. Dad, do you have anything else to share?
No, woof, woof.
Woof, woof. I don't know if Apollo's still there.
No, he's gone.
All right, well, he got bored, so I get it.
All right, woof, woof, until next time.
All right, see you all later. Bye.